Welcome to Techno Happy Hour
That's right.
with jazz music. Kind of weird, but that's how special we are.
Just
Okay, so
gotta
what are we
do it.
doing today?
We're having another presentation.
Actually, it's too loud.
Yeah, it is. It is way
Yeah.
too loud.
hmm I didn't notice whether that was recorded from last time, so I'm gonna check it out later on. Okay, so is everything good on your end?
It is
Quality
good.
checks.
Yeah, I'm doing the quality checks now. Let's see. Let's see. LinkedIn. We are live.
There
So
you
let
go.
me make some changes. Right. Beautiful. I think we're good. We're ready to rock and roll. How's your weekend?
Good. It was good.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
So this week, um, I gotta admit that it will become our last our last business challenge, business logic challenge will be kind of repetitive, but as we just continue with experiencing, I guess the how would you call it, the complexity of building your own AI and having clients to be involved in their own constructions of that. um, it just we've become repetitive, right?
Correct, correct. So, well, it at a high level, it becomes repetitive, right?
Yeah.
Because the devil's in the details,
hmm
and that's what we need to talk about, right? In more
in depth.
in depth, right? So that's kind of where the side conversations that we have are probably the most valuable than the
hmm
presentations because
hmm
we're we're bringing in experience. We, some a couple of announcements. We are trying to see if we just move this to once a week.
hmm
We're getting very busy,
hmm
and so we're trying to make sure that we provide value and well, um,
and give the opportunity to
exactly,
learn something. Yes.
exactly. So we don't want to stop doing it altogether, although it gets hard to justify because we don't get a lot of engagement as well. So that's something we now that we'll spend more time. We can spend some more time strategizing how to get more engagement and what does this techno happy hour have to turn into um, for it to be engaging, right? And then to have more of an audience and to provide more value to more folks for free. Um, yeah, so that's more of a development, but for now we will, well, I guess let's make that decision. Laura, will we be doing this another techno talk on Thursday, or are we starting it as of today that we'll only do once a week as of this week or next week?
I think yes. I think this week We have shared already some of the insights from our clients fixing their repetitive task and implementing RPAs and AI agents for their business purposes. And today lands one of my favorites actually in terms of how a business in the software environment is trying to find solutions for customer journey. So I really like that. But we cannot move any further because we are under NDAs or under a specific projects no, that are not concluding anymore. So we can't really go that far. And as you said, I think that we've come to an end. And as we kind of like, we are almost finishing up this quarter, right? So maybe
Yeah.
we need to step back for a bit and say, what are we trying to achieve in this time? Maybe this will be the time for us to invite some people that we said that we were going to do, but we just haven't accomplished it yet. So it would be kind of like a goal. um, and yes, I think this week can be the very first week that we only do this once a week. We'll always be available in our right in any platform actually. Um, and besides, we're serving other platforms, right? We're trying to get a community in um, Alignable, is it? LinkedIn and other groups that are within the um, technological space too. So we'll see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're doing a lot, guys, and we're trying to um, manage it all.
Yeah.
And so it's a great issue to have. But yes, for sure. I guess right now, join us every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. for an hour. We are going to start doing some interviews with some of our clients and kind of have those perspectives. But then, kind of a reminder of why we do this, right? What's more important, right? To make the world a better place, one solution at a time. And that's kind of what our focus is right now. Is we're focusing on our solutions. We have um, a potential issue here with the with this session that we have, and we're trying to see, okay, what can we do to make it better? What's the possible solution to make it better? And so this month we're still talking about AI driven solutions for business logic challenges. And today is
Mm-hmm.
actually a great one because we will be talking about processes. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Yep.
all is about what happens first,
Bit.
what happens second,
Yeah.
what happens
Bit by bit,
last.
right?
Exactly. So last week we talked about information security and some of the business logic challenges, and that's kind of what we're doing here. Um, Today's session, right? We're talking about some e-commerce business workflows, use cases that we can discuss, some key challenges about modern web-based businesses, and some integrations with them. Some common misconceptions about workflows and processes that you think are working, but they're not. This process is perfect. It's going to win us all of our clients, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, and
Um,
so,
I
go
was,
ahead.
you know what? I was thinking more of when a tool um, and I want to go very light, and I hope it doesn't misunderstands that a tool it's always going to give you the you know top a top top star promising in terms of operations, and they might have been built with that purpose and at heart, right? But that doesn't really necessarily translate to the actual facts of your operation. So this is where a misconception can, lead to a customer into one specific procedure for a while until, someone or a lot of people, or maybe your business is just so low, you realize, right, that something
Absolutely.
is not
Yeah.
working.
A tool is only as great as its users, right? So,
Hmm.
um,
And we are a mess.
yeah. And then
Users
also,
are a
you
mess.
might have one person that understands how the tool's used, but then
Hmm.
you have another person that has a different perspective. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of things to talk about here. And then some owner insight. What if automation was making your experience worse, right? What do you have to fix first? So automation won't save your business unless you fix this first, right?
Hmm.
And it really depends on your process, right? Like, what is the automation doing? What's the process doing? What comes before the automation? What comes after? It's you have to look at it from the beginning, um, every time you look at it, right? Because things change over time, and you think that the process is working that way, but it's been 3 years since you've even looked at it, and you've had turnover, and you've had many people work through the process, and they all had a different interpretation of how the process should look like, um, and what
Hmm.
that means. And so there's a lot of, when it comes to automation, automation helps solidify some of those processes so that it's done the same way every single time, or in the same manner every single time. But it really depends on what comes before, right? And what feeds it. And that's honestly what, from an AI perspective, that is the problem. Again, right? The problem with AI is the data, and
Hmm.
there's not enough of it. And a lot
Hmm.
of people don't understand a lot of the data, or we're not capturing all the data, or we're capturing it, but it's not in the right format, or it's not in the right structure, or it's decentralized. And so that's the piece that, when it comes to AI, that's the piece we need to be talking about more, right? That's what I'm talking through with, our clients, as to show me everything. Open the
Hmm.
closet with all of that. You, you
The
with this
corpse.
process and automation, yeah, with all the corpses.
I wouldn't
But I
say,
feel like a better, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, no, no. Finish your thought, please, and
I
then.
feel like a better saying is that, when your mom told you to clean up your room, and then you just start stuffing things underneath your bed, underneath the rug. You start throwing stuff into your closet. I feel like a lot of small businesses start doing that, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, I know where it is, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hidden.
I know where I hid it. I know where I put it because I put it there. But then as you start growing, and you have teammates that come on board, and now everybody's doing that.
Hmm.
And so where is everything? How is it organized? When, if you come into, a process, and everything has a shelf, everything is labeled. I remember, when I was in high school, and I used to live with my parents, and, we lived in an apartment, and when I was in high school, and my sister would always ask, when she's doing the dishes, where does this go? Where does that go? Where does this go? Where does this bowl go? Where does this pan go? Um, and my stepdad Carlos, at that time, he got so frustrated with her asking every single time, that he labeled all of the shelves, he labeled all of the cabinets, and that is where they go. Like it's organization. It's organization of where you're going to put things when you're done with your process, right? The process
Mm-hmm.
was we're done eating. It's time to clean the plates and put them where they go, dry them and put them where they go. Um, but a lot of the time that will happen is that well now you're not the only one doing the process. Now you're wasting my some of my time because you're constantly asking me, "Hey, where does this go? Hey, where does this go?"
Yeah.
um, and so now it's not an efficient process anymore because you're spending all your time looking for where things
The
go.
answer. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where a great automation, that's where AI is phenomenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if my sister at that time had a personal AI as to where do I put the pan, this pan? All right, you put it in the oven, you know?
Exactly. So I've actually I put on the word variable here, but I do recall having to and this is I want to translate the language of what I understand a variable is from the operational background to the software because this is also what small businesses might face. See, you're a developer of a software that is trying to translate what is going on a daily basis. And I put on my pulse in here because the pulse of a business is just the same. Like customers don't come in just one way; they come in different ways. So when when we talk through all of the customer journey, so you have several variables and you have several users in place. Uh, where I was going to is that the business logic challenges that software engineer suffer the most is understanding that, and so the operational manager needs to tell you what are those variables, and for you that's another thing. That's not a variable. What is it in your language?
I just, it could be a variable.
It could be okay, well it's the same. um I don't
It's
know,
a
I
so
just
a variable is just something that is contained. Like it's a placeholder,
it's
right? Like
your cabinet.
exactly.
Okay, yeah, the
Right?
cabinet of the
So
plate.
it could be a variable could be an entire object. A
Mm-hmm.
variable could be a class. A
Mm-hmm.
variable could be an entire function, right? But a variable is just something that you it's something you need to take consideration of, right?
Yeah.
At least what I would say like okay, I need a name, right? So I'm going to give a variable name, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that needs to be identified as the full scope of
Mm-hmm.
what we're trying to do. And usually you identify the variables at the beginning,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now when you're starting your code or your project, you want to list out what objects or what things, what placeholders you need or will need in order to get the output that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so you'll start initializing all of your variables, and then you do your, and then now that you've initialized them, then you run them through the process that you want to use them for, right? If this, whether it's logic, whether it's an execution, whatever it is, if this, if I want to use these variables to do this,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yep.
supply this, or organize this, or do, whatever that may be. Um,
So
but I
they're the
think
same. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then variable in the real, what I think, and I apply this in the real world as well, is like it's like your requirements, everything
Mm-hmm.
that you need from a project perspective, or um, if you're looking at a problem, problems have variables, right? Are there compliance and regulation variables, the things that you need to take into consideration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are there um, and that's
Internal.
what yeah,
Yep.
and that's why I like so much about what I love about technology and coding is because you're just writing, really, right? Like if it's a book, there's variables in books.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people could be a variable, all of the
Characters. Yeah.
places, all
Yep.
of that. Yeah. Everything,
The
everything,
plot twist.
everything could be a variable, right? You
Yeah.
can categorize and you can put them into their objects. Um, and so you can kind of abstract that, right? You can have variables within variables, and you can have and stuff like that. So it applies for everything in the business, right?
Yes.
So if you're going to try and to automate a process or try to create an automation, you want to make sure that you understand all of the variables:
Mm-hmm.
compliance, business, the users and operators that are going to be doing it, um, your customer, your client.
Mm-hmm.
Is it internal communications, external communications? Um, like you want to make sure you lay everything out. How you piece it together is the process. Whether you've done a good job of piecing it together, that's another thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
um, but yeah,
Super. That's um I call it like getting, I think you told me this yesterday in terms of how do people speak and understand, and I try to apply that into this slide. So where's the hidden flaw? It's like, where is it that you're making your mistakes? Customers are hating you for it.
exactly.
um,
And I think, and I'm gonna take this personally because I I'm never bored.
your brain
I
won't
used
allow it.
exactly, and so when and I think that this is just growing up. I mean, extremely bored, where I would just be like, just the only thing I could do is just think,
Hmm.
and so I started to just think about my environment, and so I do this everywhere: restaurants, roller coaster, like amusement parks, everything. I admire the process. Like I admire the process, and I look at
Hmm.
it, and I'm like, okay, this is actually really good. And actually, things that are very impressive, I like take mental notes as like if I
Hmm.
ever need to open a restaurant or do something,
Yeah.
like that's a great process. Like that's a great idea. And
Hmm.
so I try to do mental notes of the good things to do. And obviously, you can't identify the good with some bad. So I also review bad experiences, and I ask myself, well, why was that a bad experience? And
Hmm.
well, what could I the the situation to what could have been done to make it better, right? Identifying the problem. And a lot of a lot of people don't do that. They feel like, oh, it's the customer's fault, or oh, it's the employee's fault, or it's the project manager's fault. They didn't. And look, in some cases it is, right? Um,
That's a variable.
yeah, it's a variable. It's variable, and uh, it, it just depends. Everybody has to take accountability. Like it just at the end of the day, it's everybody's fault,
Hmm. Yep.
and you gotta be okay with that.
Yes.
And the reason why I brought that up is because a lot of these things, and we're going to talk about more about this later, but a lot of these things is just when was the last time you actually walked through that process? When was the last
Hmm.
time you actually walked through that workflow, right? And not as the process owner, but as the user, right? As the
Hmm.
customer, as the and like how did you understand the user experience of that, right? And that's the real test. If you can put yourself in the shoes of the people that use it and that are going to go through this experience, then that's where you're able to see a lot more variables, and you're able to see which variables are lacking, or oh, I didn't think about that, or oh, what about this, or what about that, and so you start to consider a lot more variables into the process. And and as long as you can just identify that there are more variables to be
Controlled.
considered and
Uh-huh.
controlled,
Consider
then
control. I like that.
yeah, then you, for the most part, I feel like the more you know in some of these things, the better, right? Especially from a process perspective. And so that goes into integrations of applications, right? When does it need to happen? When does the data need to be sent? Why does it need to be sent? What is happening before the data gets sent, right? And what's the time that we need to do that, right?
Hmm.
Um,
You just reminded me, your phrase about the accountability recently. You just reminded me of a book that it's called Compelling People. So you were just going through your mental notes of the process that made you. Uh, when you said, I just wanted to say, you do get bored. I, you do, because I think, and everyone and a lot of people will think that's just boring, Eric. But not is not what I meant. The
I
the 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 compelling people, it really does explain the reason why you do that with your mind. It's just incredible. The book captures insights of like recent things of how we judge situations, and you're just trying to do this in a way that just translates the relationship that are between objects and people. I mean, the book just goes on
which book
to,
is that?
it's called Compelling People. It's a really great book. Like, I loved it. I It's a my book. I think it had like a big monkey in the cover and a little child
You gotta send
sitting
it
on
to
a
me. Hold on,
bench.
I gotta look it up.
Yes, you have to read this book because it's very, very and this is why I remembered it, because these are hidden qualities that makes us influential. So not to pick on the idea of you being bored on all of that, but uh, like several brains were made to be relational based and try to, all of that sense of appreciation of any process that you look around. It's like I just found that book very, very interesting in terms of how we're related to many processes, people, and you just reminded me of that. Yeah, that's the book. It's a very good book. I highly recommend it. To me, it's like in the 5 star, and I
Now
think
I'm
that's the
gonna have to
reason
read it.
you have to read it to understand why you want to have an opinion about that park amusement.
Amusement parks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the amusement park. It's in you. It's just within you, and not a lot of people have the same mental strength because people do not necessarily care. And so, but this is essential. So going back to our subject, obviously, this is essential in terms of having to be aware of the process around you to make the collective people, the collective self of everyone to just, you know, run efficiently. So that's
Hmm.
a, that's a,
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah. You just reminded me of that only because you said something about the collective, the And the book just says, I was trying to find the exact quote that made me reminded me because I remember the word collective in the book, but I just couldn't find it. I just know it's the book.
No, I'm gonna read the book and then I'll confirm with you of like, yeah,
Yes,
I understand why
big
you
time.
brought it up now.
Yeah, big
Yeah,
time.
so this is what we're talking about on the screen here is in relation to e-commerce, right? Um,
Yes.
just from that perspective. So, some of the problems are like you have integrations of external applications. Um, what's the consequence of integrating with external applications? Well, now you might have a slower checkout time because now you have a
Mm-hmm.
sub
Pick.
process.
Mm-hmm.
The checkout time and pickup locations, right? Well, now you might have some confusing order confirmations, right? Um, oh man, it would have been great to have one of our clients on this
Yes,
call to have a
right.
conversation on this topic.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
because
I
we
thought
could
about
they
that.
could provide us a lot of
Yeah.
insight into the actual problem. Let's reach out to them and see what they have to say, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe next time we can have them on. um
She told me, yeah, the last
oh,
time, but
why isn't she here? I'm joking.
she isn't here because of her schedule.
Yeah,
She has a very tight schedule,
yeah, I
and
know.
it's a shame that we barely can talk to her. It's only within some
A
time
few minutes,
slots.
yeah,
Yeah.
we get windows of conversations
Yes,
with
exactly. So she couldn't be here live.
her. Yep. And so then you have some of the problems are like your order page and support page. Well, that leads to unclear delivery processes, right? So everything, and I wouldn't even say these are problems.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's just an action. Every action, right,
Hmm.
has a consequence, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah. Have you ever purchased something? I don't do this often, but when I do a purchase online and I get super like excited about the ordering process, I just go like, "Oh my goodness, these felt like magic." And it just goes so smoothly. So I had this experience with this website of some mugs, and I just want to go buy it again. It's like no, Laura, you don't need any more mugs. You don't need any more of that. But it's just so magical, right?
Well,
So
I get scared of
me
those.
too.
I
Yeah,
mean, even
well, it
Amazon,
happened.
one click
Click.
buy,
Yeah, like
Oh my goodness.
you don't want to do that.
No,
No.
I
Yeah,
was on a
that.
plane. Actually, it's funny because I was on a plane. Who was there was Doctor. Give me one second. So the author. I was on the plane. I got sat next to Dr. Travis Bradbury, who's the author of Emotional Intelligence. This book right here,
Nice.
and Emotional Intelligence Habits. And I sat next to him, and obviously I didn't know who he was before I sat next to him, but I just opened up a conversation, and um, he told me he was an author and that he'd written this book. And I admire anybody who writes a book. It takes a lot of effort, like to write anything, and let alone share it with the world
Print, huh? Yeah.
and print it. Um, and so where am I going with this? Oh yeah, Amazon.
The magic of the
I
click.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was we haven't took we're still on the tarmac. We're still at the gate. We
Uh-huh.
haven't taken off. I look it up on Amazon,
Uh-huh.
and
It
I
just
wanted to add it to my checkout to my cart, but I clicked on the one click buy,
oops.
and I was like, oh well. And so I turned to Travis and I said,
I, I,
I have your book now. It comes
I
on
guess
Thursday.
I guess I'll be reading your book without me.
um,
Uh,
I
yeah,
highly recommend it.
I
It's a
have
great book.
my. I bet. I have my. Obviously, I have my. That's a cautionary because Amazon is well known for being just the mother of
Oh, you can
the
get anything
magic.
there.
Yeah, you get. Um, I was more on the example of a website that just describes you the product so well that it just walks you through seamlessly without even noticing that you're just going in through your purchase decision. So that was a little tricky, Amazon, but we know you. Oh.
And I guess I'm also realizing, I don't know if this is an age thing or it's just a,
The-
I've been in that environment
uh-huh.
so much that I'm starting to gravitate. Like the other day, I was talking on the phone and I someone called me and I didn't want to pick up that call. But I didn't even think about it. I just clicked on the next big red button and I hung up on the person I was talking to. And and I thought about it and I'm like, wow, I'm either getting old or I'm getting domesticated. Like I'm getting trained. Like my mind is now trained that hang up, not answered call is red. And I just clicked on I without really, it was a reactionary habit of just click on the red button and it'll go away. But I made my call go away.
Uh-oh. That's so
So
funny.
yeah, I mean,
It,
it
it's
goes back
supposed
to
to
this.
it's supposed to be giving you two options, right? Ever either hold or it's just confusing. Hold
I
and as hold and it didn't give you the option of hold, put on hold and
answer.
because you were in another call. It just gives you the red button
No,
right away.
it was red or red.
Oh,
It was like,
yeah, that was a little
pu-
messy.
I don't know. Anyways,
Whatever you were like conditioned. Click.
I just, it was a condition, and that was the first time that I've ever done that. Like, I
Wow.
didn't even think about what I was doing. I just did it,
Oops.
and well, there was a consequence, right? Every action has a consequence, so you got to think about it. Most automation advice is wrong. This is what really works. Wow, that was strong.
I follow your advice. Nobody talks like that, Laura. It's like, okay, let me talk like everyone.
Yeah, so guys, we're getting ready um, for some presentations, and um, we get really elaborate on our vocabulary and our tone,
Hmm.
and I just had to say it. I was like, no human being talks like
Will
this.
ever even read this?
Yeah, they'll read this and they're like, okay.
Ah,
And then what? I don't
yeah.
like, it's like, so it was like, it's like superficial, or it's just hard to really capture or
Right.
grasp
Hmm.
um the thought, the actual thought, because it's just a statement.
Hmm.
um
I get it that we need to. This is to me. It was almost like let's give a statement that is nurturing and is not necessarily telling them from a authority perspective what you need to do is just an advice perspective. So um,
exactly.
changing the tone actually, hopefully it works, right? Because
Yeah.
this is also the meat in terms of the content that we deliver. What we just discussed is literally the development life cycle of a product.
And
But we
this is
just
that.
we
And this is
didn't.
how Laura talks to me too. She talks through me through these presentations, because what she's saying here is the user happy now. She's really asking me. are you happy now with the tone?
Exactly. Yeah, happy
um,
to know.
so like automation advice is great. Any advice is great, but it has to be objectively applied, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where my philosophy is. I take every advice with a grain of salt until I'm starting to sit down to solve the problem, and then I will put that advice as a variable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That advice is a variable to as an option that I might use or I might not use to solve the entire problem or to solve for the automation or whatever we're trying to do. You really, this requirement analysis is laying out all of the variables, right? So you go
Mm-hmm.
and research, you find all the requirements needed for the business software or for the to select the right vendor to use or to create the right automation. You have to know everything that's involved with it.
Yep.
Everything that's involved, everything that comes before, and everything that might come after. And then you add one more as what else? What else could
Mm-hmm.
affect this, right? Could
Oh,
it,
and this is where I saw some examples of how the user could get it wrong. And oh my goodness, the user can get it wrong. It's like, how did they even thought about that?
how did they get here? But that's the
Uh-huh.
thing, like you can never,
It's
especially
yeah.
if you have a lot of users, you would never, you can't think of all the ways they could
Mm-hmm.
potentially do something,
Yep.
especially when it comes in relation to time. Like
Mm-hmm.
the longer time goes, someone will do something you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's true.
Um, and it comes with an education, societal changes. And I've seen that actually. Like it's fine for like 7 years, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
like a societal or a people change or a mentality change.
Mm-hmm.
And you get someone new into that process as a process owner, and they're using it in a way different way than it was designed to
Yep.
do. And you're like, wait, that's not how it was meant to be used.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mop, not a broom.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like that's really what we're taught, like trying to figure out. And so I like that you put SDLC and it's not talking about software. It's talking about
Yeah.
system because
Mm-hmm.
that's all we're built. A software is a system. An automation
Mm-hmm.
is a system. Everything is a system. You are a system. Your body
Mm-hmm.
is built of multiple systems. Every organ is a system, right? Um, so you have to understand the life cycle of that system to really provide something that's going to provide value, right? And that comes with a great requirement analysis that's going to provide you a great secure design, that's going to provide a great framework for the coding and how we're going to test it. And that's really what makes it a beautiful process, a beautiful project, because
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a great team that's collaborating and it's not just one person trying to figure all this stuff out, because the more perspectives that you have, of course, you need someone to lead the project and kind of push it along. But the more engaging and collaborative that team is to
Mm-hmm.
bring in their,
The best.
everybody has different variables,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody, let's just throw out all the variables onto the
Mm-hmm.
board.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you build something better than what was thought about
Mm-hmm.
originally because
Yeah.
you have multiple perspectives. The more perspectives you have on something,
The better.
the better.
Yeah. Yep.
Is the
Is the
use, and
user
then you
happy
go
now?
exactly, and then you go and present that to the client
Yeah.
who should be the user. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
are you happy now? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that, actually, the client should be part of the conversation, right?
Always.
is the most important person in the conversation. We really, from a listening perspective, right? We really got to
Mm-hmm.
listen to the client. So, how businesses approach processes?
So this is the
Very linear.
owner now.
Yeah.
The owner is the one telling us where there are bottlenecks and why are they happening.
I,
And hopefully they know the frustration points of the customer, right?
yeah, I want, um,
This, and I was gonna say, this is where our customer, launching this e-commerce platform, she just knew. Like, I loved it. I love how in the journey of the clients, she just knew where were the pain points of the customers. Like, I know
exactly.
they're having this issue and la la la.
I just
So,
I just want to
the
show this video real quick
uh-huh.
because this is kind of how we look at processes. We look at processes as we have on the presentation, where it's very two dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's not really how the world works. This
Yeah.
is how the world
The
works.
the truth. Oh, I saw a little post about the truth and the perspectives of it. Like, that's so cool. It's a
Exactly.
nice
So,
video.
and if you look at it, if you think of a process like that,
Yep.
this is
Mm-hmm.
how we should be moving. This is how we should be capturing all of that information,
That's
right?
so
Because we're
cool.
moving through the process, but everything around it is also moving
Is at their own pace,
at their own
at
rotation.
their own rotation. Yep.
Exactly. So,
Isn't that cool?
this is how
Super
processes
cool.
should be viewed. And
Yep.
if you look, take it even big, and it also depends on how you look, how you view. How
Mm-hmm.
granular are you looking? Are you looking at it departmental, team? Now you look at the whole galaxy, the whole company.
Oh, yep.
How does the whole company move? Right?
And there you go.
And
Wow, that's a
so
really cool video.
exactly. It's and so I just wanted to show that because
Mm-hmm. That's
it's not a
exactly it.
linear. It's
Yeah.
not a linear process.
Yep.
That's how does a business approach a process?
Mm-hmm.
You have there's so much, so many variables you got to take into account. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, you can get smaller and you can get finite answers, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can always simplify,
Yep.
but you have to understand from the galaxy view,
Mm-hmm.
and then you
Yeah.
look at it from a solar
Mm-hmm.
system view. And once
Yeah.
you're able to do that, then you're I mean, and not all things require this level of effort, but if
Mm-hmm.
you want to get it done right, where it's going to provide you the most ROI with the most value, and that you're not going to change it every month or every week or every quarter or every 3 years, that's if you want something that's a little bit more permanent in structure,
Yep.
that's kind of how you have to look at it,
Mm-hmm.
because now you can't fix 100%, but if you can fix for 80% and leave the other 20% to be
Yeah.
variable,
Yeah. I was
then you're flexible and you're nimble and you're
yeah.
able to move in the direction you need. You're
Yeah. I
creating.
was gonna say exactly that because that little gap, it's also the customers that won't prefer you, and that's okay. That's
Yeah,
more than okay, right? It's just, but you are at least capturing the majority of those that you're, it's is in their attention focus. So
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's super cool. That's a great analogy. Great.
That's how I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's with the that's a great perspective.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. You
Hmm.
have you
Yeah,
That's how
everything,
we spin, but everything is
every
about perspective.
yeah,
And so we really have to analyze the customer frustration point, right? So what is that frustration? Is it really a frustration? Are they causing their own frustration? Why?
yep,
Why? And so it's even here, right? If you can analyze the customer frustration points, then it forces you to think from the customer's perspective rather than their own internal operations.
hmm
So why does that matter? Because if you get, this is data, this is information. If you're getting this information, if you understand this information, then you're going to be able to identify the workflow bottlenecks, create smarter decisions, which are now required you to make changes to your workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And what we talk about all the time, our approach. If there's anything you need our perspective on, we provide a free audit. And we can, if you're thinking about how to use AI, if you're thinking about any technology project, we'll be more than happy to create a free audit of what your plan should be. Not just about AI. Right here we have about AI, but really anything from a technology perspective. And our approach is we have to start from a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand the entire perspective. Once you understand, then you can create a plan, then you can execute, and that allows a partnership for growth. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's from a technology perspective. If you just say AI growth partnership, no, technology growth partnership. That's what we're here to do, because we'll be able to create great solutions and provide long-term tools and solutions that are going to work for a long time. But we're here to help you as your business evolves as well, right? And we always start from the beginning.
Yep.
There's no other way to to
I,
do anything. You got to
I,
start all over. Don't be afraid of
yeah.
starting over. You never forget what you've done, but if
Mm-hmm.
once you start over, you're always going to do it better that time.
Yes. Like I don't know where I got this quote from, but I remember reading something about you and this is where the consultancy and our approach just comes into it. It could be very valuable to anyone because you're seeing it from external eyes, and there's absolutely nothing better than having someone that doesn't have an agenda on your operations, that is just looking at you from another perspective. So we said it, but I think that is very valuable for any customer to just um, having some external eyes into their own growth partner, their strategy.
It's an honest opinion. That's
Yes,
all you're going to get
just to
from
say
us.
exactly.
We'll come
Yep.
in here and we'll tell you, man, why did you do it
Yeah.
this way?
Yeah. Why?
And we don't,
Uh,
it's not a
it's
judgmental
it's
thing,
not
but it's
exactly. Uh huh.
exactly, but it's,
Mhm.
we have to understand that, right?
Mhm.
That's a very important question,
Mhm.
because we have to understand that.
Yep. So yes, go back to the drawing. Look at the drop make here.
Mic drop.
My,
Your
I'm
e-commerce,
switching.
your system, your application isn't broken. Your workflow is, because you just don't have the right
Yeah.
workflow. You don't have the right perspective. You're not thinking about it from the other side. And then also, time changes how people think, how they work, how they flow.
Mhm.
So, when was the last time you yourself have gone through that workflow
Mhm.
to
Yep.
figure out, to see if that workflow is even providing you the value that you thought about it was providing you years ago?
Mhm. True.
And yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of challenges with this. And it's a, just as we have to understand how the solar system moves,
Mhm.
it's just as challenging to keeping tabs to everything and monitoring all of the movement as it is to understanding it.
Mhm.
You can understand it, but are you monitoring the movement, right? And that is the key challenges here. All of these are the same key challenge that are perpetual, because your customers are going to change over time, right? The understanding of how those customers move is going to change over time. So you're almost always guaranteed to have an incomplete understanding of the customer.
Mhm. Yep.
because you'll have an understanding today, but as time goes on, unless you're monitoring and keeping track,
Mm-hmm.
then that movement, that customer is just
Difficult.
going to move away,
Yep.
right? And that you become farther from your customer. And so now, how did you manage the complexity of the relationship of that perspective, right? There's you, there's your customer, there's your system. How do you manage those touch points? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you manage, there's you as the business owner, there's you're the salesperson, there's the marketing person, there's the customer. How do you manage all those touch points? All of them change over time. You as an owner change over time. Your understanding changes over time. And that just happens. That's just time, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
just what happens with time. And so e-commerce evolves in that standpoint as well. Your websites are going to have to change. Mobile apps are going to have to change. The way you do social media has to change. It's always changing. It's an
Mm-hmm.
always, you always need someone to monitor, right? To
Yes.
be monitoring, to be understanding what has changed and what do we have to do to change to now meet the new variables, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yep.
can't monitor anything without real-time data,
Yes.
right? And so how do you justify it? How do you justify the change? You need the data. Well, if you don't have the data, you're not going to be able to justify the change.
Yeah.
Um, and so,
And then how do you even manage to have one of your main audiences to, personalize one main audience? Like you have several different, well, it totally depends, right? Because we're talking about e-commerce, and every e-commerce have different personas they're trying to build up their audience with. But how do you personalize that is super complex. But you can only think of, you know reach out to them and to ask them. And this isn't a small complexity type of example, but it does get really, really complex. Yeah. Especially
absolutely.
across platforms.
Yeah, this is this is why we have to wake up every day. We have to wake up every day to observe.
That escalated quickly.
This is because
High
if we stay
level
asleep, if we
statement.
stay asleep, we're going to
Yeah.
not be able to keep up with the understanding, the
Yes.
perspective, the multiple touch points, being able to review the real-time data and analyze the data, understanding that customer journey. Like that's the reason why we have to monitor. We have to
Mhm.
stay vigilant. We have to be watchers.
High level statement, Eric.
Extremely high level. We just because you got to do the work. You got to wake up and do the work.
Yes. So funny. Yep. So I think we're picking up the what did we say was the phrase for this? Yesterday I thought about this phrase, and we're going to be burning on the owner, not thinking about the workflow so much that by the time we go to the owner inside, they're gonna be tired of hearing us. But
Yeah,
again, it's a perspective, and everything is a perspective.
yeah, yeah. So why is it important, right? Run through, I would even put it, you can timestamp it, right? Every 2 years, you as the owner walk through the workflow. And it depends on your business, right? It depends on your business cycle. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a restaurant,
True.
you want to be testing that
Every single week.
probably week, yeah,
Yeah.
weekly, almost daily, right? You want to
Yes.
make sure that the same service that your clients and customers are having are the same service
True.
that you receive. um, and so that's very important, right? You have I forget what it's called, but there's a term for that where you have like shadow clients, right?
Yes,
Like they're really
it's
like
the shadow client. Yeah.
their actual cus they're acting as customers, but they're really auditing
Yeah, the
for the
process.
owner,
Mhm.
auditing the process for the owner.
Mhm.
And so what does that do, right?
I
Once
hate
you've
when they're too picky though. I'm joking. It's like, don't be obnoxious or entitled. Be a normal customer, please.
yeah, yeah,
No, I think that this is where most of the challenges come because you can't predict it.
exactly. So we got to make smarter decisions.
Yes.
Once we understand that there are, a need to update the workflow or automations, then
Yeah.
you got to have the data to make the smarter decisions for the new workflow. And then that also helps you be proactive, right?
Mhm.
Because some customers won't tell you that, hey, this was wrong. Maybe they don't
Yeah.
know any better, right? You know better because it's your business and you know exactly how you want to treat your customers
Mhm.
and what the experience that you're trying to get with them. And if you're not testing your workflow and you're not getting feedback from your client, then you
Yeah.
don't know that that's a problem.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
And
true.
so that's important. All right, guys. Tomorrow we are having a business workshop with the Small Business Development Center from 12 to 1 Central. Please register. Um, we'll have, oh, we didn't have the link here, but it's all on our social media. So you can go to our website, our social media, and you'll be able to see what we're doing there. We're talking about the importance of a written information security plan, and I'll be I'll be the speaker. So hopefully that you guys can come out and learn some stuff about why it's important to have a security plan for your business. And that won't be the first webinar of many. So hopefully we'll yeah join in. Um, so this is a quote. I don't know where this is quote from, but recognizing that the
Mm.
most advanced tool isn't always the most suitable. Alignment with business needs is key. There's always going to be a newer, shinier object, but
Mhm.
you have to you have to be objective. You
Mhm.
have to be objective with the tools and your processes. All right. So stop frustrating your customers with broken workflows. And if you have a project in mind, if you need some assistance, or then share it with us and let's explore what we can do together. Thank you so much. Here's a QR code where you can find all of our social medias, and all of our links are there. If you can email us, you can visit our website, all on the screen. You can call us at 832-937-9622. And thank you guys so much. Thank you, Laura. It was a lot of fun today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Take care. All right. I got to get to
Right.
work.
Okay.
That was a good one.